Okay, it's hot in here. It's really hot in here. The laundry's running. I can't have a fan on because it's going to mess with the audio. So let's just go ahead and get right into things. But before we do, I just want to bring a couple things up. First up, I got a haircut. Finally, after 4 months of quarantine, I finally got all this terrible stuff on the back trimmed down. Thanks, Jimmy the Barber. I don't know if he's watching this video, but if he is, thank you. Second, this video is going to contain, boom, massive spoilers for Paper Mario the Origami King. And so if you haven't played the game yet and you don't want anything to be spoiled for you, I would suggest you either proceed with caution or just stop watching altogether if that sort of thing really freaks you out. I am going to go into a lot of detail on several different aspects of the game. That's why this video is probably going to go on for longer than I was really wanting it to. But just keep that in mind as I let you make your decision. So, yeah, let's not dilly-dally any longer. Let's... Oh boy, what am I getting myself into? Intro. Let's do this thing. Nintendo Directs have been the company's go-to outlet for revealing information on games currently available and those yet to come since as far back as 2011. But lately it seems that the concept is on the brink of being fizzled out, as Nintendo's decided to adopt a completely new business strategy. Use mini-directs to hype up certain games that only a small number of people will actually be excited for, and just put up announcement trailers for their bigger titles pretty much whenever they feel like it. No teases, no build-up. It's like one day you're hiding a dead body in the middle of the woods, perfectly normal Tuesday, and then the next morning you wake up to find that Pikmin 3 is coming to the Switch. And then someone finds the body and calls the cops on you. This was how Paper Mario the Origami King was revealed, and those that saw my reaction video might remember just how much it caught me by surprise. I'd heard a rumor that a new Paper Mario game was going to be coming out this year, along with a collection of HD ports of all the 3D Mario games. But while this game's announcement was met with a mostly positive response, I was honestly more excited by the idea of those 3D Mario remasters actually happening. It's not often that a game's reveal gets me more hyped about something that might not even be true. Yet. Please. To put things in perspective, I've been a massive fan of the Paper Mario series for almost 15 years. And to anyone watching me for the first time, first off, welcome. Second, I recommend you check out my videos covering 4 of the 5 other games if you want a better idea of where I'm coming from. But for the sake of this video, I guess I could briefly summarize my thoughts on the series. The original's a classic. Thousand Year Door improves on it in just about every way and is one of my favorite games of all time. Super Paper Mario, while often considered the black sheep of the series, is still a great game in its own right. Sticker Star, however, was where I felt things started going downhill, due to its lack of unique characters, immersive story, and cohesive gameplay. And Color Splash was more of the same, but with a slightly worse battle system. My problem with these 2 games in particular are the same as most other people. Aspects of the games that we grew to love over the years have been stripped away, giving us lifeless imitations rather than what we consider the real thing. So the Origami King's trailer left me hopeful, but mostly skeptical. While I did notice some bright spots, the majority of it just looked like it was going to be Sticker Star Part 3. Also, games being announced so closely to their releases usually raises red flags for me. Not helping was when that interview with series producer Kensuke Tanabe came out. Then there was the Treehouse Live event, where everyone just acted like the first 3 games don't exist, and then spent the rest of the time talking about some Bakugan game that could have easily been saved for the mini-direct that was happening just a week later. Getting to this point was like going on a roller coaster. A bunch of ups and downs, and at times I felt like I was gonna vomit, so I wasn't sure if this game would end up renewing my faith in the series, or serving as the final nail in Paper Mario's cardboard coffin. But the least I could do was approach it with an open mind. and that's what this review show is all about. Then, something miraculous happened. I liked it. Wait, I liked it? Well, surprisingly, yeah. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. Strap yourselves in, folks. This is gonna be a big one.
Well, I can tell you this now. The game starts out on a pretty promising note. An origami festival is taking place in Toad Town, and Princess Peach invites Mario and Luigi to attend. Except the invitation is only one sentence long, a far cry from the lengthy letters she used to send them. Seeing these brothers walking around together really brings a smile to my face, but the whole town is deserted, so that pleasantry comes with a hint of creepiness. Like doing community theater shows. So when they make their way into Peach's castle, Mario's encounter with the princess isn't like the original game, where it's a nice moment interrupted by the villain's arrival. The threat is apparent from the very beginning, as Peach has been folded into some sort of origami monstrosity and wants us to convert to her side. Bowser's not the one to blame here, though, because he and his minions have been captured by folded soldiers, enemies that have also been turned into origami. Then Mario meets another origami creature, except this one is actually nice. Her name is Olivia, and she's basically the companion character for this game. After finding this hammer lying around for some reason, why is Thousand Year Door still the only game where Mario has it from the start? We make it to the roof of the castle, where we meet the titular Origami King himself, Ollie, Olivia's brother. He wants to refold the world into how he sees fit, and uses 5 streamers to lift Peach's castle up to the top of a volcano, making it the base of his operations. This intro does a really good job at establishing the characters, the setup, and the tone. It also has parallels to some of the previous games, though whether these were intentional or not is up to interpretation. This sense of uneasiness hits you right away. It's atmospheric, it's eerie, and you already know what's coming since it was shown off in the trailers, but even if the reveal doesn't come as much of a surprise, the build-up to it helps make it much more effective. But this is a modern Paper Mario game, so Bowser's usually the main villain. Surely there must be a point in the story where he pushes Ollie to the side, and guess what? That doesn't happen. Ollie is the primary antagonist from the second you start the game to the second the credits roll. And he's a right old twat. He has a severe hatred for anything paper, the very thing he was folded from. And he's so evil, he's willing to kill his own sister just to accomplish his goals. You are a bad boy. Don't flip your hair at me, you little bastard! Poor Olivia having to put up with this. She's the first companion character I've actually really liked in these games since Tippy in Super Paper Mario. She isn't obnoxious like Kirsty, and she has more personality than Huey. She's naive, but well-meaning. She keeps a positive attitude no matter what situation she finds herself in. And frankly, she's just so friggin' adorable. Look at her gently nudging Mario to scooch over when sitting on a bench. Look at her pretending to voice the overhead speaker in this elevator. Look at her laughing at how funny Mario looks in this giant Goomba mask. But the fact that she's related to the main villain also gives her a really fascinating character arc. Olivia isn't happy with what Ollie is doing and wants him to change his ways, but what she really wants more than anything is what's best for other people, even if it means having to fight her own brother. Paper Mario the Origami King has a very simple plot. Mario and Olivia must travel around the Mushroom Kingdom, destroy the streamers wrapped around Peach's castle, defeat Ollie, and save the world. And sure, it's not very complex, and the side characters still mostly consist of generic toads like the last 2 games, but a new villain means a new threat, and an unpredictable one at that. A threat that forces Mario and his enemies to put their differences aside and fight for a common cause. With the forces Ollie has at his disposal, the game keeps you guessing as to what kind of things you'll encounter on your travels. Big or small, there's bound to be a number of moments from this game that'll stick with you. That disco song the trees sing after Grand Sappy's given a soulful seed, Birdo's entire performance at Shogun Studios with a western face-off and a ballet and a West Side Story homage, that dance number in the Temple of Shrooms that admittedly kinda goes on a bit too long, that time I got jump scared from seeing a toad's face through a telescope. Oh my god! Then, of course, we have the contributions made on the part of the localization team.
We used to be trees, but don't feel bad for us. We'll turn into ashes and grow again.
Well, I appreciate the optimistic nihilism.
I'm growing organic kale, and it's like a magnet for hipsters.
Mario characters should not know what that word means.
Where's the sun? Do you think it's hiding away because it's angry about something?
Ah, very cheeky. That song just made me question every decision I've ever made. That's just a mood right there.
He was a bad guy, but his art was pretty good.
Nah, that's too easy.
Recent Paper Mario games seem to focus less on the overall narrative and more on just giving players memorable moments. So, while the lack of a deep story would normally bother me, unless it's the first game, in which case I can forgive it for being the first game, Origami King's writing managed to both charm and delight me in ways I never could have imagined. As for the gameplay, it pretty much takes everything wrong with the last two games and makes it better in almost every single way. Then again, making something better than this train wreck shouldn't be too hard to accomplish.
Paper Mario the Origami King is structured slightly differently from not just Sticker Star and Color Splash, but every other installment in the series as well. It still has open-world exploration and turn-based combat, but it's not separated into chapters like the previous games. If anything, I'd say this game is structured more like Super Mario RPG, where it plays out like one big adventure. Though at least that game knew how to use a world map, unlike these stupid... Origami King's progression goes back to how it was in the first two games, where the worlds were all interconnected, and you could get to each one by taking different means of transportation. You could walk there, take a tram car, or hitch a ride on the sea captain's ship. But as you progress, you gain access to these different colored warp pipes that let you travel between worlds much faster. There are also these sensor lab locations that have what they call a fax travel system, sending you from one place to another via fax machines.
Okay, this is the only paper-related joke that I'm willing to accept.
The worlds don't exactly stick with the traditional grass, desert, beach, and jungle themes like other Mario games. You get those in small doses here and there, but the locations are much more varied. You have an amusement park themed after Japanese culture, a tranquil spa-themed area with elements of Greek architecture, an abandoned cruise ship in the middle of the ocean with portraits of Peach from all the other games, and a version of Toad Town that hasn't been this lively in 84 years. Wherever you go, there's a ton of secrets to find. Sometimes you might locate these doors that lead you into a cozy little cafe where you can sit down and relax with a
cup of joe. Coffee.
Other times you'll come across toads folded up into different origami shapes and restore them by hitting them with your hammer, which I have absolutely no problem with. I understand if it's toad abuse and that toads have rights, but I don't care. I'ma hit you. And later on you get something called a toad radar that helps you find toads a lot easier, even though it's only really needed for one section in the whole game. And going back to the Super Mario RPG comparison, the overworld can also have you find starmen to make you invincible and kill enemies just by touching them. Unless there are none to be seen, like this area right here. But the number of minigames and activities to partake in is quite astounding. Riding through river rapids, collecting treasure in a submarine, battling enemies one after the other, throwing shurikens at moving targets, shooting down paper airplanes in a cannon while aboard Bowser's airship. And once you get the sea chart from Captain T. Ode, you can find some more hidden treasures on the Great Sea and find more islands to explore. Though I wish you could have the sea chart up on screen like a minimap so you don't have to keep exiting and opening it up again. There are also these collectible treasures that can be found all over the place. They don't really do anything, they're just little trophies meant to be, well, collectible treasures. But you can find them up on display in the Toad Town Museum. What's more is that rescuing toads gives you points that can be used to unlock pieces of concept art, which are often quite beautiful. And there's a music gallery where you can listen to the soundtrack tied to different worlds once you've repaired all the non-bottomless holes within that area. Scattered across the overworld are these big empty holes that Mario can cover up using confetti. You know how in Color Splash Mario could use paint to fill in white spots and make things appear? Confetti works in the exact same way, as fixing up these non-bottomless holes can reveal hidden coins or other kinds of goodies. This bag icon in the top left corner shows you how much confetti you carry, and once you're all out, you can collect more by killing these giant papier-mâché bad guys, collecting bags of it, or crushing flowers. Aw, they're so beautiful. Let's kill him. Side note, as I kept finding non-bottomless holes on the overworld, I started calling them confetti holes, which just sounds really funny to me. Wait a second. This one kinda looks like a smash ball. That must mean... PlayStation All-Stars 2, baby! Another new mechanic for us to play with involves using the 1,000-fold arms. It's basically this game's version of the paperize and cutout abilities from Sticker Star and Color Splash. By standing on a magic circle, Mario is given these big, springy arms, insert obvious joke here, that let him do things like punch logs to use as bridges to get across large gaps, and pull away the scenery to rescue NPCs trapped inside or reveal some hidden secrets. This is where the motion controls come into play, as you have to move the controller to a particular spot, hold down the ZL and ZR buttons to grip it, and then move the controller in a corresponding fashion to pull. At first, this seemed a bit forced, but thankfully, if you're not comfortable with the idea of using the motion controls for the entire game, you can just go to the options menu and turn them off completely. I used a Pro controller for my playthrough, so that's what I did. Wiggling and waggling that thing around just doesn't seem like a smart move. But you can't use the 1,000-fold arms without Olivia, and that's not all she can do. With the press of a button, she'll give you some hints and tips on how to solve puzzles and the like, similar to Goombario and Goombella. I found her to be pretty helpful on the occasion, but there were times where she wasn't very helpful at all. For example, after I got the Diamond Key, I spent some time trying to figure out what it does, but while I was back in Toad Town, I would ask Olivia for advice, and she would just keep telling me about some side stuff that I already knew I could do. Then I went back to the Great Sea, and since that was a location I needed to be in for the sake of story progression, now she decided to clue me in as to what I had to do. So she only gives you info on how to complete the active mission if you're somewhere directly related to it, which, as you might imagine, can be problematic. On the bright side, at least I didn't have to rely on her that much, because unlike Sticker Star and Color Splash, I never felt as if I needed some kind of outside assistance in order to get through the game. The last two games had puzzles for you to solve that I swear nobody could figure out without using a guide of some sort. And when you find the solution, you just sit there going, how is anyone supposed to know to do that? Origami King is nowhere near as bad in that regard. The puzzles are much more straightforward and easier to understand. During my whole 25+ hour long run of this game, I've only ever used a walkthrough twice. First to guess the Sniffet's mood in Shroom City, and second to find the square jewel in the Sandpaper Desert. Even then, it was more out of curiosity than frustration. For 99% of the time, I was able to solve puzzles and find secrets entirely by myself, and many of which by complete accident. Origami King is generous with providing hints, but doesn't act like an overprotective mother and hold your hand too much. It gives you enough freedom to figure things out on your own, so that the challenge is never too cryptic or too easy. Sometimes I was even able to be one jump ahead of the dev team and figure things out before the game could even hint at them. There's a part where Olivia gets upset about something traumatic that happens, so thinking back to when we first tried on the Goomba mask and made her roll around laughing hysterically, I knew right away I had to put it on again. Another time I was in an area leading up to a boss fight, and I was presented with all these clues surrounding the boss's strengths and weaknesses. Then during the fight, Olivia told me where the enemy's weak spot was, when I already had it figured out by the time she told me.
All that being said, so far, Origami King is pretty solid. It's not too alienating in terms of difficulty, there's a lot of fun things to do outside the main quest, the exploration factor is high, and it seems to follow more traditional Paper Mario tropes. There's the obligatory game show segment, someone fawns over Mario and kisses the crap out of him, and many of the game's mechanics just exist and don't directly tie into any specific theme. It's not like Sticker Star, where everything was sticker-based, or Color Splash, where everything was paint-based. There is a general theme surrounding origami, but the gameplay doesn't force itself to be centered around that idea. it makes room to experiment and incorporate fun ideas. And this applies to the battle system as well.
Combat is similar to the last two games, with some added bells and whistles. For one thing, look at that! Jump and hammer attacks are permanent again. They're not just one-use items anymore. Oh, thank you, thank God! And Mario can also be equipped with accessories, giving him properties similar to Legend of the Seven Stars, while kind of acting like badges in the first two Paper Mario games. These can affect Mario's progression on the overworld, like helping locate hidden blocks and drawing in more confetti, as well as his performance in battle. Here, Mario is surrounded by enemies from all sides, and you have to rotate the stage like a Rubik's Cube or pull sections vertically in and out to place bad guys in rows for you to attack. You're only allowed a certain number of ring moves per round, and a set amount of time to make your rows, but if you can create successful lineups, you're given a temporary attack boost, and as many turns as there are rows of enemies. So if you have 3 lineups to go through, you'll have 3 chances to do so in a single turn. To be honest, I find this whole ring system legitimately interesting, and it's a very refreshing take on Paper Mario-style combat. It adds a level of strategy that Sticker Star and Color Splash both lacked in. It forces players to plan their moves more carefully and take the time to work out the best course of action, and it presents a different degree of challenge. It's not just taking out opponents, but arranging them in ways that let you take them out quicker and more efficiently. Some of these puzzles can be a no-brainer, but others require a little more thinking, especially when it comes to boss fights. And if you need to get some practice in, you can go to the Battle Lab in Toad Town and go over stuff like ring moves and action commands, featuring cameos from the Rescue Squad. How do I even remember these guys? But while I might have had generally positive things to say about Origami King up to now, the battle system is where I started to see cracks. Action commands still kinda suck. You can't deal damage back to enemies when they attack you. All you can do is block and land timed hits. Actually, did anyone else find the timing here a bit weird? Cause whether I felt I was too late or too early when pressing the A button, somehow my hits still registered successfully. Now let's talk about the weapons. So along with your normal jump and hammer attacks, Mario can also be equipped with up to 3 stronger variations of each attack. You can even swap them out during battle, which is pretty cool, but I guess to make up for jump and hammer attacks no longer being one use only, they decided to have secondary weapons break after being used too many times.
Because that's what Paper Mario games needed. Weapon durability.
What, just because Zelda and Animal Crossing had it, that means you have to start putting it in Mario games too? Well, it made sense in the context of those games, but here it just seems out of place. Worst of all, there's still no experience system. People have debated whether it's really needed or not, but here's where I stand. No, a little to the right. Thank you. So, in the first 3 games, you'd get star points or some kind of experience points for taking out foes, and you and your teammates would level up and get stronger over time. It was satisfying to see them become more powerful as the game carried on, and that's a feeling many other RPGs can give you. But everything changed when Sticker Star attacked. Both that game and its follow-up had it so that your reward for participating in battles were just coins, and the only thing that would increase over time was Mario's health, the number of pages in his sticker book, or the amount of paint he could carry. And, unfortunately, Origami King is the same thing. Hey, that rhymes! Sure, you do get slightly stronger as your HP levels up, since you can kill weaker enemies on the overworld without entering battles, but your HP doesn't necessarily upgrade through story progression. There are times where you randomly find max-up hearts by yourself, or they're just given to you by an NPC. The one thing that does increase with story progression is the amount of confetti you can carry. Why is it that the thing you'd expect to be important is treated as a side quest, and the thing that should be treated as a side quest is given more significance? As much as I really do like the new battle system and how it works, the lack of a decent incentive for taking part in battles turned me off from them completely. It's like no matter what types of enemies I face, I still get nothing but coins and confetti in the end. I got to a point where I just did my best to avoid battles as much as possible unless it was pretty much mandatory, which was easier said than done in places where it seemed like the game was forcing me to battle just for the sake of battling. How am I expected to keep being invested in the combat if winning battles is only going to give me stuff I can already find on the overworld anyway? Accentuating that fact even more is the sheer number of coins the game already gives you. Look how many I got in just the first hour. It's enough to make New Super Mario Bros. 2 blush. I imagine the developers only gave us so many coins because items and accessories are ridiculously expensive. How much would a mushroom cost you in the first 3 games? What, maybe 5 coins? Alright, well how much are they here then? 100? Damn, inflation must have really hit the Mushroom Kingdom hard. Well, you can also spend coins to buy yourself more time to move the board around, and you don't lose coins when you run away from battles, so that's kinda nice. Oh, and remember all those toads we had to locate on the overworld? Well, the more you find, the more that appear in battle to cheer you on, give you extra items, shuffle the board around, and generally just lend a helping hand. As soon as you pay them to. Yeah, so it's almost kinda like Thousand Year Door, where you could appeal to the audience and have them give you extra star power, but instead you actually have to pay the audience to get them to cheer you on. You're essentially buying fans. Well, that's just ridiculous. It's like if companies paid me to say good things about crappy products. Can you imagine how stupid that would be? By the way, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow. I'd be lying if I said the lack of experience points, or just anything worth a damn, didn't tarnish my view of the combat at least a little. But they do still throw in some cool things to spice things up a bit. You can use the 1,000-fold arms in battle, even if you don't get to choose when this happens, and eventually you'll get partners! Now this is really starting to feel like Paper Mario. Look at this dude following me around. God, I miss this, I really did. Oh, I can't wait to see how he handles in battle. That's it? That's all he does? He just sits there, waits for me to be done, and then bops him in the face? I don't even get to control him? Oh, don't worry, that's just my soul being drained from my body. Damn it, Bobby! Okay, this partner system was completely botched. I don't really mind the characters themselves. I would prefer more original characters, but these guys are still pretty cool. Bobby is a Bob-omb who suffers from amnesia after he gets his fuse knocked out of his head by Gooper Blooper while on Princess Peach's ship. Professor Toad is an archaeologist studying creatures known as the Ancient Ones. Whatever happened to Colorado? And later we even get to team up with Bowser Jr. and Kamek. Even the Koopa King himself will tag along for the finale, after we release him from his wallet-like state. And hey, some of my favorite scenes in the game actually involve party members. When Olivia's trapped under a giant boulder, Bobby destroys it by putting his fuse back in his head and blowing up, sacrificing himself in the process. It's a genuinely touching moment, and Mario's reaction especially really adds a lot of weight to it. Rip in pieces, Bobby. I just wish you were more useful. So partners in the first 2 games each had their own abilities that you could use to aid Mario in battle or to solve puzzles on the overworld. Allies in this game sort of work in a similar way. There are a few times where Mario and his ally had to work together to solve a puzzle, but it was just, I'll stand here, you go stand over there. No use of any special abilities required. In fact, only Professor Toad has a skill you can use on the overworld, which involves digging things up in the sand. And even then, trying to get him to dig in specific spots can be a little annoying. They also don't stick with you for the rest of the game. They join you for the time you're in a particular world, and then they just stay there. Except for Bobby, obviously. And as you saw before, you can't control them in battle. Mario takes up all the action slots, and once he's done, your ally comes in and performs one single attack that doesn't even work most of the time. Who thought bringing partners in like this was a good idea? Why couldn't we do more with them? Especially with Bowser Jr. and Kamek on our team. I would have loved to see what kind of abilities they would have had. Like, maybe Kamek could cast spells to make hidden blocks appear or turn obstacles into platforms. Or we could ride with Bowser Jr. in his clown car, like Black-a-Lester. I was afraid this would come off as a half-hearted attempt at appealing to classic Paper Mario fans, and what I predicted came to pass. This is easily the most disappointing part of the game for me, and just makes me wonder, if party members were going to be incorporated this way, why have them here at all? And can't we just have Luigi stick around for 5 minutes? So while Mario and his friends are off on their adventure, Luigi's on his own adventure to find the key to Peach's castle. We meet up with him a couple times throughout the game, in situations where we need a key to reach another part of the area. Being the kleptomaniac he's decided to be now, apparently, Luigi always happens to have that key on him, thinking it's the one for Peach's castle. It's pretty funny the first 2 times, but after the 3rd or 4th time it happens, the joke gets a little stale, and I wish he was given more to do. Or at least wish that he was a permanent party member. It is nice to see him pop up every now and then, though. After all, he is
My baby! Hey, I finally got that fixed. Ah! What the crispity chocolatey Kentucky Fried hell is that?
Well, that is a creature known as a Velmental. There are 4 of them to encounter at various points in the game, and each one represents a different element: earth, water, fire, which we just saw, and ice. Defeating them grants Olivia the ability to actually transform into a Velmental by standing on a magic circle, and use its power to solve puzzles on the overworld. So you can use the Ice Velmental to freeze pools of water and walk across them, or use the Earth Velmental to lift something out of the ground. These powers are slightly limited because you can only use them in certain spots. Like if there's an obstacle that requires the use of a Velmental power to overcome, then you can only use it at that particular moment. But you can also use Velmental powers in battle, which is awesome. Except during the first phase of this wave battle, when I was pretty much forced into using it despite there being only 2 enemies on screen. So using it here was just a waste. Why couldn't they let me save it for the next wave? Actually, this gives me a perfect opportunity to talk about the boss fights, because these use the board in a more dynamic way compared to normal battles. Instead of lining up rows of enemies, you have one big baddie positioned in the center of the board. So now you have to shuffle rings around to create a path for you to lead Mario to the boss. If any special board spaces are part of that path, walking over them can give Mario added bonuses like an extra turn, increased attack, or some tips and trivia relating to the boss's attack patterns. Bosses also have weaknesses for you to exploit, like the Ice Velmental's weak to fire and the Fire Velmental is weak to water. But these aren't the only bosses we can fight. I'm at Overlook Tower right now, and someone's firing these giant colored pencils at me. Oh, geez, I wonder who we're going to be fighting here. Oh. So the colored pencils are the boss. Yeah, you know how Sticker Star introduced the idea of Mario having to encounter real-world objects? And how the novelty quickly wore off by the time we got to Color Splash? Well, Origami King keeps that going and decides to have us fight stationary items like a box of colored pencils, a stapler, a tape dispenser, a hole punch, a pair of scissors, and the Rubber Band Man! If these were all tools being used by other boss characters instead of being the bosses themselves, that would be pretty neat. But you're literally just fighting giant office supplies. There's no creativity here. Plenty of insults. Some of them are even kind of funny. And to the game's credit, it does build up to their introductions in some pretty clever ways. In Overlook Tower, there's graffiti everywhere drawn with colored pencils, including Mario's death sprite from the original Super Mario Bros. And in Shogun Studios, the Toads are bound to their seats with rubber bands. The battles themselves are quite the challenge too. The scissors start out with this cover over the blades, and I think I accidentally made the fight harder for me by destroying it, because once I did, they came charging right at me. I was able to avoid them for as long as I could until they actually managed to kill me. I thought I was done for until I realized I had a 1-up mushroom on me. Whew, sure dodged a bullet there. The scissors were already super close to losing all their HP, so if I had gotten a game over at this particular moment, I would have raged harder than a Karen being told to wear a mask in public. Seriously, wear a mask, you friggin' idiots. But anyway, the stationary item's presence, to my surprise, is actually explained in the story once we get to the Origami Craftsman's Workshop. This is also where things start getting a little more intriguing. We find out here that Ollie was created by the origami craftsman using a secret technique to bring him to life. Ollie then betrays the craftsman because of some scribbles done on the paper used to fold him, and decided to turn the entire world into origami, creating his sister Olivia to have her rule by his side. And it turns out he also brought the tape and the stapler and all the other tools to life so that they can serve as his minions. Well, I guess that almost makes up for the lack of creativity. So once we clear the 5th and final streamer, we hop aboard Bowser's airship, get ambushed by an armada of paper airplanes, launch ourselves out of a cannon through the top of the volcano, and make our way back to Peach's castle. Oh, and the key that Luigi was looking for? It was stuck in the exhaust pipe of his go-kart the whole time. Well, Luigi, at least you mean well. Then Ollie uses his power to turn the castle into what looks like a giant foam playground. This level can feel tiring and drawn out. It's like the closer you get to the finish line, the farther it's pulled away from you. It feels padded out with an overabundance of enemies, magic circles, and killer Pac-Men. But after all that, we finally make it to the Origami King's throne room, where we see that Peach herself has been folded into the castle. Yikes. I knew this game was full of horrific undertones, but something about that just seems wrong on so many levels. Well, now Ollie plans to master the 1000 crane technique, where by folding 1000 origami cranes, he'll be granted a wish. He's already folded 999 of them, and once he folds Mario into the 1000th crane, he'll wish for everything paper to be completely blank. And now, the final boss. The first phase of this fight has Ollie turn into the Velmentals and using their power against us, so it's kinda like a boss rush, only it can drag if you don't know what you're doing, or if he keeps turning into the Ice Velmental and repeating his stupid patterns again. Then the second phase has him turn into a giant chess piece, and we find that his power is so limitless, he can bend space and time as he starts folding the fabric of reality into origami. My favorite part is when Olivia folds Bowser into a Godzilla-sized freak of nature, and he and Ollie start going at it like some kind of origami rock'em sock'em robots, and Mario uses the 1000-fold arms to slam the ground and give Bowser the advantage. But then for the third phase, Ollie comes back stronger than ever, and we have to move segments of this board around to activate a new kind of magic circle. Doing so allows Olivia to use the final folding technique learnt from the craftsman, which involves turning herself into a giant hammer. I'm not sure what the craftsman would even need this for, but we're able to use it to smack Ollie hard enough to send him falling into the abyss. As he lays dying in Olivia's arms, it's revealed that the scribbles written on him were actually a message from the craftsman, hoping Ollie would one day be a noble king. Finally seeing the error of his ways, Ollie tells Olivia to fold him into the final crane, and she wishes for all the origami to be unfolded, including the castle and herself. Mario and his friends return to Toad Town, Peach is turned back to normal, the Origami Festival goes as planned, and everyone releases lanterns into the sky, closing the game on a beautiful, bittersweet, but emotionally satisfying note.
But apparently, that's just one of two endings. What you just saw is considered to be the normal ending, and there's also a perfect ending that you get from beating the game 100%. From what I've read, it's pretty much just the normal ending, with a post-credits scene involving the craftsman. It's nice to see the developers put more care into the story, but multiple endings in a Paper Mario game seems a little unnecessary if you ask me. Also, I'm the kind of player who prefers to go for 100% after I've already finished the game, like going back to gather all the recipes in Thousand Year Door, or going back to collect all the cards in Super Paper Mario. But like Sticker Star and Color Splash, Origami King doesn't have anything to offer in the way of post-game content. Once you beat the game, going back to your save file will start you off right before the final boss. So that means if there are any toads or collectible treasures you missed, you can't go back and get them, meaning you'd have to do everything in one go to accomplish a fully completed run and get the perfect ending. Yeah, no. I'm not doing that. Not right now, anyway. I might revisit this game somewhere down the line, but after putting so much time into this video, that might not be for a while.
Man, this review's sure been all over the place, hasn't it? I've had a lot of good things to say, and a lot of bad things to say. But overall, what's my verdict on Paper Mario: The Origami King? Well, the lack of experience points or a level-up system is a letdown. The incentive you get for winning battles is pretty weak. The weapon durability is pointless. The partner system feels tacked on and haphazard. Progression often gets a bit tedious, and there are times where the game will just throw stuff at you for no other reason than to extend playtime. But even with those issues, I still found the game as a whole to be pretty enjoyable. The battle system is intuitive, the worlds are fun to explore, the new game mechanics add a lot of variety to the experience, the difficulty is
perfectly not confusing.
The writing, for as simple as it may be in terms of plot, can still be quite endearing, and it delivers on some truly unforgettable moments. Graphically, the game is gorgeous, but it also uses the same engine that Color Splash ran on, and to tell you the truth, I find that kinda lazy. Every single Paper Mario game has had its own distinct look as they jumped from console to console, so you can tell which game is which just from looking at screenshots of them. This just looks like an extension of Color Splash, and as such, I think Origami King fails at establishing its own unique visual identity. Though, ironically, it's a lot more colorful than Color Splash, so I'll give it that. The art style can be pretty inconsistent too. Sometimes water will look like it's made of cardboard, and other times it can look like real water. Also, am I the only one who thought seeing Luigi like this was really weird? I'm so used to seeing his eyebrows when he gets sad or angry. I don't know if I like this. And, oh my god, his L is backwards. Did they just miss that somehow, or are they secretly paying tribute to the box art for Mario Kart Double Dash? What I also found weird was when everything in some areas would be loaded into one section, but other areas had smaller sections that needed to load as separate places. It looks like I can just seamlessly go up these stairs to the second floor, but apparently it's a different map altogether? There aren't a whole lot of instances like this, but when they do happen, it just confuses me as to why they couldn't be loaded into the same area. Then again, I'm not a programmer, so what do I know? Well, I do know good music when I hear it, at least that's what I like to think, and Origami King's soundtrack is a bop. Seriously, this is great stuff. I especially like how the battle music changes in style depending on which world you're in. That's such a nice detail. But is it me, or does part of the main theme kinda sound like the music from Wii Sports? At the end of the day, Paper Mario: The Origami King is more or less what I was hoping it would be. A mix of elements from the original Paper Mario games, even if not all of them are done correctly, and some of the better elements from the more recent games. Compared to Sticker Star and Color Splash, this is a huge improvement, as it captures more of the spirit of Paper Mario, while still being a pretty good game on its own, despite its drawbacks. I hope I haven't been annoying too many of you for constantly comparing Sticker Star and Color Splash to this game, but as far as I'm concerned, they were Paper Mario in name only, while Origami King actually gives players a worthwhile experience.
It's not perfect by any means, and personally, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Super Paper Mario. It definitely doesn't come close to Thousand Year Door, but this is certainly a step in the right direction. There are still improvements to be made, and I think if they tweak Origami King's gameplay in just the right ways, and maybe bring back some more elements of the original games, I wouldn't mind if the series began following in this game's footsteps.
Kensuke Tanabe said in that interview that he finds it difficult to satisfy everybody with how much Paper Mario has strayed away from simply being role-playing games, but I think he and his team can still find a way to appeal to both casual and core gamers without completely ignoring the series' RPG roots. Who says they have to just be adventure games? You can still treat them like traditional RPGs, and with the Mario and Luigi series laying dormant without a team to take it over, Paper Mario, as of right now, is the only surviving RPG series Mario has left. Change is how many game franchises are able to stick around for so many years, or even decades. I don't want every Paper Mario game to just be Thousand Year Door over and over. I want them to take elements that worked for every single game and bring their own flair and their own ideas to the table. But I also don't want them to be more in line with how the main games are perceived, because Paper Mario should exist as its own separate entity. What's wrong with leading games away from the Mario universe? Mario spin-offs can be their own thing. They don't always have to keep within the boundaries of normal Mario games. Look at Luigi's Mansion 3. That game could not exist any farther away from the Mario universe if it tried, and Kensuke Tanabe was also credited as a producer there. So clearly he had no problem with the direction that game was taking, with all the non-Mario-like characters it introduced. But for some reason, Paper Mario can't do the same thing? Even after Sticker Star, the main series gave us the Nabbit, the Broodals, Glydon, Goombet, the residents of New Donk City, the Toastarenans. If you're allowed to modify Mario characters and create original characters that touch on the Mario universe for games like Super Mario Odyssey, or hell, even Super Mario Maker, then what's stopping you from doing that with Paper Mario? I don't understand why the development team is being put under such needless creative limitations. The people at Intelligent Systems are capable of making fantastic games, and Origami King is proof that they can work around their limitations to make something good. But if higher-ups at Nintendo would just give them more freedom to go deeper with the storytelling and make a Paper Mario game that's allowed to exist outside the confines of the Mario franchise, that could be what the series needs. And why did they put their former series director in charge of some Fire Emblem card game?
Well, that's all, folks. Another summer of Mario is officially behind us. And thankfully, we were able to end on a game that had some bad stuff, but far more good stuff. And that's an interesting thing about Mario. Even if he makes a bad game, there's still some fun to be had with it. You just can't bring yourself to hate someone as joyful and innocent as Mario. And with everything going on in the world right now, celebrating a character that embodies so many positive qualities, I think, is more important than ever. But now it's time for me to take a break. So, I hope I've been able to give you all some sort of comfort from making these videos. And until next time, be good, behave, be safe, and be on the lookout for a smelly 23-year-old man raiding your local Target for some Lego Mario sets. Oh, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you.
It's finally over. So, Haldo, thanks for watching, everybody. My chair squeaked, but I'm gonna keep recording because I don't care. As always, I'd like to give a very special thank you to the patron, whose name is scrolling across the screen, as well as my superstar supporters for this month, Henry Newman, Tyler Paul, Rachel Rodriguez, and Jake Winans. If you'd like to support me as well, please consider pledging to my Patreon page, or if you're watching me on YouTube, click the join button to become a sponsor for this channel. You don't have to do any of these if you don't want to. I've said this so many times before, but I will stress again, these are all optional, but it would mean a lot to me if you gave these a look. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you look down below the video, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I have a Teespring store open now. So that's where I'm going to be selling all of my official merchandise related to my review show, and also to my original series, Anytown. And what's cool is that all the profits made from the Anytown merch goes straight into producing the show. So hopefully I'll be able to make enough of a profit to get that show in production one of these days. If you're watching on Vlare, you won't be able to see it, but it's on YouTube if you'd like to give it a look. More merchandise is on the way, and I'm actually talking to somebody to design a couple shirts for me, but that won't be for like another month or so. I'm not sure just yet, but stay tuned for that. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to be taking some time off from making these videos, maybe to focus more on personal projects, spend more time with my family. Near the end of the month, I'm going to Michigan to visit my girlfriend, and we're going to have a nice time. It's just going to be nice to get away from YouTube for a little bit. I should probably stop now. My throat's getting sore, and I'm worried that if I keep talking, my voice is just going to completely disappear. As always, links to my social media and Discord server are in the description, and if you want to stay updated on my future uploads, you can stay subscribed or follow if you're watching me on Vlare, and ring the notification bell if you're watching me on YouTube. thanks again for watching. You guys absolutely mean the world to me. It's been great to see just how much you've enjoyed this Summer of Mario series, and I'm especially looking forward to what else there is to come for the review show. I hope to see you real soon, and with that said, this is Marc, bidding you all a smashing farewell. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care.